Hey friends, in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I went from this to this to this. So stay tuned, I'm going to show you my entire process from start to finish. Let's get into it. All right, I'm going to be doing a little sketch today in my Arches watercolor travel journal. I'm going to be sketching with this Micron, Pigma Micron number 2. This is a great little pen for sketching in watercolor, or for sketching and then painting over it with watercolor because the ink doesn't smudge. The only thing I don't like about using these is if you're painting on, or drawing rather, on paper that has a little bit of texture, the nib can wear out pretty fast, but they're still really good pens for doing this. And it's been a long time since I've done some sketching, which is actually how I first got into watercolor. So I'm really going back to my roots here. So I've got this little scene here, which actually comes from a video that I filmed recently where I did a trip around southern Arizona. I'll have a link to the full video if you want to see that up here somewhere. And let's just get straight into this. So we got ourselves a little old abandoned house, a tree next to it, and a few other little random things happening in the background. So my goal with this is going to be to keep it real simple and loose. And we're just going to try to go straight into this with the pen. So I'm going to start by figuring out where the horizon line is going to be. I'm thinking about right there. Just drop that in pretty lightly. And there's a bush right there. I'm starting with a real light first pass of this pen. Bush comes around like that and goes up. And this tree starts right there. It comes up and over. Goes up like that and up like that. We'll make the tree go off the page a little bit. Over like that. And down. I'm just worried about the big shapes right now, the biggest shapes I can see. And I'm using each object that I draw as reference for where the next object begins. Kind of comes down like that. Let's see, yeah, the roof starts right about there. Slopes up at an angle about like that. I'm taking my pen and I'm kind of holding it at my eyes against the photo that I'm looking at, just to check if there's any angle to the bottom part of the roof, and it's basically flat as far as I can tell. This is just a sketch, so I'm really not too concerned about getting it perfectly right. In fact, I would say the whole point of doing this is for it not to be perfect. That's why it's a sketch. Now you can see some of that grass behind the tree and the building, like that. There's a little trunk for that tree, comes down like that. It's about that wide. Again, this is not going to be perfect. I'm trying to do this nice and quick, keep it loose. Yeah, drawing with pen like this, where you just go straight into it with the pen and you do no pencil at the beginning, gives you so much confidence. Yeah, we'll add some more fun textural details later with the pen. Since we're over on this side, the grass goes about like that. And then there's this bank that slopes down at that kind of an angle. There's a fence, a little barbed wire fence running on top of it. So I'm just going to draw the top of the fence, making that line deviate away from this line of the bank, the top of the bank. That gives you the sense that this line is moving away from you into the distance like that. Man, this is a lot of fun. I forgot how much fun sketching like this is. It's just zero pressure. Like, who cares if it doesn't turn out? It's a sketchbook, you know? We're just having fun. Having fun. Dropping that little bush. There's a shadow from that tree that comes around like that. And that would be the shadow of the house. There's some like stuff, objects right here. Just little shapes. Don't know what they are. Don't need to know what they are. Just little rectangular something or others. We've got the bottom part of the house where it meets the ground. Now this is going to be at more of an angle than the roof. But I do need to decide where the roof flattens out. I think it's about right there. Roof flattens out. And then there's a line that comes down this way, like that. Now that's going to be where this part of the roof ends. And then the corner of the house is right here, just past the corner of the roof. That goes down like this. Make that a little bit lower than this. We'll just make a little squiggly line indicating foliage and grass at the bottom of this. Connect that there. There's a shadow that goes out like that. Yes, I'm actually sketching very lightly where the shadows are going to be. When I'm doing full-sized paintings, I almost always draw in very lightly the shadows because they're just so important for making a convincing scene. You have to get the shadows right. This other part of the roof kind of goes like that. I don't need to get the lines to be perfectly straight. It's okay if they're a little wiggly. In fact, I would say that gives it some character. That edge of the wall is right there. Let's get the bottom part of the house over here drawn in. Very slight angle up, almost imperceptible. And there's a water tank right here. Other little tank or something right here. See, we're slowly just piecing together this world. I love watching it just come into form right before my eyes. It's so satisfying. I'm also wanting to test out this scene to see if it could work as a full-size painting, but I'm not sure if I want to do that yet, so doing a little sketch first. I'll probably go back and thicken up some of these lines, add some texture and some more details. When I'm sketching like this, I do like to add in a bunch of the textural details with the pen itself. It's just a lot of fun. There's that shadow for the house and the tanks. And it comes around like that. It's like a little path right there. There's a bush right there. It kind of pops up like that. Another bush here. All right. This little area of grass or whatever comes out like that. Trees in the distance. Little bush right there on the side of the bank. Just painting in these background trees, just little squiggles. Just making that horizon line a little more even right there. So there's this little gap in the wall of the house. I just drew a little dot for the midpoint. And that'll be one side of the wall. That'll be the other side. There's a little wooden board right there. You can see the thickness of the wall right there. You can't see it on this side, so I'm not going to add another line right there. Right here, I'm going to find the center point, put a little tiny dot, and right below the top of this wood thing, there's what looks like the remnants of a door. I'll just really lightly put in a center line for that and just go on either side of it, like this. There's a row of little openings, looks like old windows. I have no idea what this building used to be, by the way. I'm going to draw a line for the top of the windows and a line for the bottom, which very, very slightly gets wider on this side. Very slightly. It's very subtle. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 windows, so 5 evenly spaced dots for the center of each window. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And see how they get slightly more spaced apart as they come closer? All right, draw either side. Just like that. Again, this does not have to be perfect. Just go for it. And I'm making these windows smaller in shape as they recede into the distance. All right, let's see. And you can see the actual wall, or the thick part of the window, just on this side. Nice. Add a little texture for the corrugated roof, just squiggly, jaggedy line, like that, at the base of the roof. We'll thicken up this part of the roof here. We'll draw some lines for the corrugation itself. Now these lines are gonna, well, actually, I did that wrong. They're gonna follow the same plane as they go. Yeah. Same with this side. Just some lines to indicate the texture of this roof. Squiggly lines at the bottom of this side as well. We'll darken up the top part of the roof. Okay, coming along nicely here. Let's see. Let's work on this tree a little bit. I'm just going to define the edge of the shape a little more. Kind of hint at the texture of some of these leaves. A lot of this I will add in with the brush as well. Yeah, if you've watched any of my full-length painting videos, the drawings I do for painting, or the sketch that I do for the painting, is not even close to this detailed. I leave it a lot more ambiguous because I prefer to add in the details with the brush when I'm doing a full painting, but this is a sketch, so I like adding more detail with the pen. It's good to know how to do both. Add detail with the brush and with the pen. Oh, we got some branches up here. Let's see, where is that? There's one right here. Gap in the canopy right there, and there's some branches right there. This big old eucalyptus tree. I'm pretty sure this is a eucalyptus tree. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure. Okay. Nice. We're just about ready to start painting. I think, let's see, is there anything else I want to add in with the pen? Maybe some texture in the ground here. There's like these tire marks or something going across like that I think are pretty cool. Yeah, something like that. Oh yeah, so let's darken up these here fence posts. And we'll add in the rest of the wires with the pen too. I like that if you push harder, it gets a darker line. And if you can get also really super fine lines with this pen. So it's really great for adding in wires and things like that. In fact, even in my watercolor, sometimes I will add wires, like, you know, utility wires with a pen because it's so much easier to do. We got these kind of smaller wires that go vertical here and there like that. And I'm pushing them closer together as they recede into the distance. And then we're gonna just draw in the other small wires that go across like that. And look at that, we got ourselves a barbed wire fence. There's also another little detail back here that I missed before, which is this little light pole. I put that just a little too close to the edge of the house, so now it looks like this is the same line. It should be a little farther this way, but well, let's see. I think I can get away with just scooting the edge of the house over a little bit, because this is all going to be very dark. And maybe this is just another feature of the house. So, see, even in pen, if you make a mistake, there's sometimes ways that you can save it. You just got to be clever. Got to think outside the box sometimes. That shadow needs to have a little more of an angle to it. Like that. Nice. Add a few more branches into this tree. Let's see. Some mountains in the background. Let's put those in there. Very, very lightly. Okay. Anything else that I want in this painting or in this sketch before we turn it into a painting? I think I'm good with that. So let's get the paint out and make this into a nice little scene. Okay, so I've got some blue mixed up for the sky, just cerulean blue, cobalt blue light, and lavender, my typical sky mixture. Give this a little spray so we can get a nice fuzzy first wash. Okay. Paint right through that tree there. Don't try to paint around the tree, because that entire tree is either mid-value or dark. Most of it's actually dark because it's kind of This is kind of a contre-jour scene. Contre-jour means painting into the sun. So objects tend to be more gray and washed out. We got little bitty cirrus clouds. There's like a line of clouds right there. I want to try to get that in if I can. Just paint around where I want the clouds to go. We can lift up some of that too with a paper towel, which is probably what I'm gonna do. Now I'm gonna add more cobalt blue light as I get down towards the horizon. Now we gotta be careful here. Let's see. We need to paint around this roof, and I don't really want the sky color getting onto the roof, so I'm gonna lift up some of that paint, or that water from the roof. More cobalt blue light. We're gonna end it right there. Actually, no, we're gonna scratch that. We're just gonna keep going. I was gonna just lift up paint right above the horizon, but this looks fine. Because I realized I didn't do it on that side, so, well, I guess I could have still done it, but whatever, it's fine. This looks good enough. Okay, let's see if I can get away with this. Just get that paper towel a little bit damp. Let's see if we can get a nice little point on it and very, very carefully lift up some paint. Yeah, I'll do. So, this is just like a full-size painting. I'm starting with the first wash, which is all of the lightest colors. We got some warmish color right here for the ground area. There was just some random warm dirt-ish color on the palette that I picked up for that. I'll use that same color for the dirt and stuff here. Got some nice dry brushing going on. I like that. I like how that looks. Okay, let's see. Just grabbing some more of that random warm color that was still on my palette from the last painting I did, which I will link right there if you want to go watch that. I'm just painting all the dirt color first, since that's the color that's on my brush. I'll bring that right up to the house, even though that's going to get painted over. I'm just toning the paper right now. And if something is going to be darker later on in the painting, you can just paint through it in the first wash. Well, unless you really want a specific color to pop and be very vibrant, like this grass that I'm going to paint back here. I am going to just paint that in yellow right from the start. And I'll get that yellow color by dropping some cadmium yellow. I'm saying yellow, I meant to say green. I want the grass to be green, so I need yellow to make green grass. There you go. So I dropped some cadmium yellow into that blue mixture for the sky that I had on the palette, and we'll just drop that in. Yeah, look how nice and vibrant that is. That looks great. I like that a lot. So paint right through the tree trunk, because that's going to be very dark. Dropping that bush on the side with the same color. This bush has a little more red-ish color going on, so I'll just take some burnt sienna, drop that into the green. I'll get a nice earthy, rusty green. Foliage in the back. We'll make that more blue, just like that. I just dropped some more of the sky color into the green mixture on the palette to do this. I like making objects that are in the background more blue in tone. That helps push things farther back into the scene. We'll do the same color for these trees on that side. And I'm just kind of loosely following the sketch marks. That's the other thing about doing line and wash or ink wash is don't necessarily exactly copy the pen marks. Let the paint kind of flow outside the lines a little bit. It makes it a lot more interesting and dynamic and just fun. Sketches are just so fun. They're so spontaneous and loose, and it's a quality that I try to preserve in my full-size paintings as well, and actually sketching is a really good way to keep that muscle fresh. Random yellow, whatever, something or other happening here. There's more green stuff. Just mixing up some more green really quick. Yeah, just throw that all in there. That bush is a more bluish green, so that works out perfectly that I just happen to have that color on my brush. There's a really interesting kind of reddish color happening right here that I like quite a bit, so... Oh, that's a little too red. Let's see. I'll just spread that out. That'll make it less intense. Yeah. Didn't want it to be that red. I'm just throwing color down on this sheet of paper here. Some more green stuff right there. And we'll come up the side of the hill. I also like to try to push myself to go a little faster when I'm doing sketches. It's a really good exercise to do. Practice painting a little quicker. Just makes you really versatile. Make fast decisions. Because here's the thing, eventually I am going to start plein air painting, which is painting outside on location. that's the ultimate goal of this channel, is to get to a place that I can do that. I really just need to get the equipment. So this is really good practice for that, because you have to paint fast when you're outside. The variables are all changing so quickly. Okay, and even though this is the first wash, we can start toning this side of the building with some nice cool colors. Let me just clean off my palette real quick. Cobalt blue, a little bit of ultramarine blue. Some burnt umber. It'll give me a nice grayish color. Nice cool gray. Also trying to paint things in as few brush strokes as I can get away with. This is all going to get darkened up, so I don't really need to worry about it too much. Preserving a highlight on top of that tank there, so I'm not going to paint that. I'm not going to paint over that. All right, let's see. We'll actually use that same color for the mountains in the background. It's perfect for that, actually. And you know, I could have not added those, but just that tiny little detail adds so much depth to this scene. And you really see that come out when I add the middle values, which is what we're going to do right now. Before I do that, I am going to just lightly tone the roof with this kind of silvery color. Make it look kind of metallic, leaving some empty blank spaces, kind of giving the impression that the roof is shining in the sun. All right, let's go ahead and start dropping in that tree. While the rest of this area dries, we can start working on this. And I will paint most of this painting with this Escoda Perla. This brush is just phenomenal. It's lasted me several years. It's about time to get a new one. The tip is starting to go out, so before too long I will need a new one. But this brush is just an absolute monster. It can do almost anything. In theory, I really could paint an entire painting with just this one brush. It would be a little annoying, you know, on a 11 by 15 sheet of paper. That would be kind of a lot, but it would be doable. But for a little sketchbook-sized piece of paper like this, it's absolutely perfect, because you can paint big areas with the side, and you've got enough of a tip where you can do almost all of the detail work you need. It's fantastic. I love this brush. So, just start dropping in this tree. Leaving some gaps, especially around the edge. I'm breaking up the shape. You really want to break up the shape right around the silhouette of the tree. That gives it a lot of texture, and it kind of hints at the individual leaves. It helps your brain recognize what this is. Like, oh, this is a tree. I see the leaves. Leave some gaps in the middle of the canopy as well. Trees are not completely solid objects, so you want to leave some gaps here and there. You don't want to fill in the entire interior of the tree. Those branches we can just paint in the same color for now because we're going to darken those up later. See, yeah, you don't even have to bother really getting out another color, a separate color for the branches. Just paint it in the same green that you're painting the rest of the tree in. It looks totally fine. Just doing some dry brushing to get a little more texture right there. Now, one of my biggest inspirations of all time when it comes to sketching and painting is James Gurney. I'm sure you already know who he is, but if you don't, please go check out his channel. He does some absolutely phenomenal work in sketchbooks. He's the author of the Dinotopia series and also the illustrator of that series. And man, the way he captures the most mundane, sometimes even ugly places is absolutely fantastic. I learned so much about drawing and painting from him. Still do, honestly. If you didn't know, I am entirely self-taught. I've never taken any formal art class in my life. When I started learning how to paint in 2019, I realized I need to learn how to draw first because I don't even know how to draw. And if you can't draw, you can't really paint, because painting is just drawing with paint. If you've got weak drawing skills, your paintings are going to be weak, and that's part of the reason I'm doing this, is because I realize my drawing skills have kind of gotten a little rusty, and I just need to keep that up and keep pushing myself to become a better drawer. It's something I'm not super confident in a lot of the time, even though that might be hard for you to tell, but it's true. Well, so now my goal for the middle value, which is what I'm painting now, is to connect everything into one continuous shape if possible. Everything that is middle value in this scene, I want it to connect to everything else that is middle value in the scene. So this tree trunk is going to connect right into this shadow that it's casting on the ground, just like that. And this part of this tree is going to connect into this bush. That shadow goes right up to the side of the building right there. This is all going to get darkened up, like I said before. I'm painting around that bush right there so that it pops out a little bit. Nice. That looks pretty good. Let's see. We'll continue with that in a minute. I'm trying to continue the middle value shape before the edge I'm working into is dry which is another reason why it's good to practice painting fast, because it keeps things so loose and fresh looking when you're able to do that. When you're able to paint the entire middle value shape before any particular edge is dry, so that the paint literally continues to flow from one point of the shape to the other point of the shape. I hope that's making sense, what I'm trying to explain about the middle value shape. If it's not, I can do an entire video about that. In fact, I probably will just do that at some point. Finding the middle value shape is a very important concept if you want to have looser style paintings, and just in general, I would say. We're just going to drop in some of that shadow color while this is wet. We'll darken that up even more later on. Drop in those fence posts. Just a little shadow on that bush there. Okay. Looking good so far. I'm just adding in these little bushes right here. Re-emphasizing that texture on the ground of those tire marks. We can always go back and add more texture to the ground later. I really need to get to working on that building though, because this edge is starting to get too dry. I got caught up working with the texture on the ground and I got distracted. So let's see. Yeah, we're good. Just barely. That was a close one. And darkening up this side of the building will make the roof really pop out. There's also that cast shadow on top of the roof from the tree that I need to add in. Slightly warmer gray for this glaze. Very slightly. We'll go back to a slightly bluer gray to paint these cast shadows. Like this one here that the house is casting onto the ground. Paint around the top of that bush. Yeah, my dream is to travel the world literally just doing this. If I could just do that for the rest of my life, I would be so extremely happy. And you know what? You can help me be able to do that by subscribing to this channel. It helps more than you think it does, especially with a small channel like mine, and I really appreciate those of you who have been on my journey with me so far. It means so much to me. For all the support and the nice comments that you leave. Another thing you can do is check out my website, jacobbentzstudio.com. I've got paintings for sale. If any of my paintings you've seen really resonate with you, you can purchase it. Help support the channel. You can even buy prints of all of my paintings on the website. And you can sign up for my newsletter, where you'll be the first one to see when I have a new painting, which is often. At least once a week I have a new painting up on my website. Okay. So this little part of the roof I'm going to darken up. This part too. Darken up that light pole, not like it really needs to be darkened up, but there's a small tiny detail that I'm going to add later. Don't know how I forgot to put that in when I was first drawing the light bulb, but there you go. Just add that shadow. It's got a, what is this called? What is this kind of light called? Dappled light? Is that right? I'm pretty sure this is called dappled light when you've got, you know, like sun shining through leaves and the shadow that the leaves cast on the ground. Yeah, that looks nice. Just leaving little gaps in the shape, that's all. Pretty easy. And, you know, we're getting close to being done with this here middle value shape. I just need to see. I put that bush right there, and I am going to paint that in because I like how it breaks up the frame in the foreground. I usually like having something breaking up the bottom part of the frame because it just gives this impression that you're standing there looking into the scene, if that makes sense. It grounds you into the scene and gives you a sense of scale for everything else. Let's see. So we need to paint in the darks now. So third wash, darks. We're going to start with that tree. Mix up a nice dark grayish color, keeping it fairly cool, using very thick paint for this. Yeah, with watercolor, do not be afraid to push the contrast pretty hard because watercolor dries a few shades lighter than when you first put it onto the page. So you kind of have to account for that by pushing your darks so that when they dry, they look correct. Yeah, most of this tree is actually going to be dark. Just a big silhouette kind of is what this is. And this paint is still slightly damp, so, or the paper, I should say, is slightly damp, so it's giving me very subtly soft edges, which is perfect. It's exactly what I want for the tree. That background is significantly darker in the picture than it is right now, in the reference photo, I mean. But I'm going to leave it lighter in the painting because I like that, because it's lighter than what's closer to us, like this background, the line of foliage right here in the picture is a lot darker. But if I leave it lighter, it gives us a sense of scale, of depth. It exaggerates the depth of the scene. darkening up the base of this bush, going a little way up and then stopping. That gives it that kind of round shape. There's some details within the shadow that this dark is going to really help with, like these little objects along the house, whatever they are, texture on the ground. That's what darks are really good for, is for adding detail within the middle value or within shadows. Darken up the very bottom of this little bush here and this one. See how that makes it look so much more three-dimensional? We'll darken up a few of these windows. Not all of them, because some of them are boarded up, looks like. Which I can indicate with a little glaze of a brownish color. Same with this and that door right there. I'll show you how I do that in just a second. I'll darken up this tank. This is all, by the way, just that really dark, coolish gray. That's all it is. Watercolor's transparent, so the colors that are underneath are kind of showing through. Even though it's so dark, they are still showing through. Which is pretty interesting if you think about it. No other medium works that way, as far as it being so transparent. Leave that little highlight at the top of the tank. So we'll take a real dark brown mixture. We'll just add some burnt umber into this dark gray on the palette. And we'll use that to indicate this boarded up door and this right here. And these boarded up windows. We're getting real close to being done with this, friends. Some objects right there. All right. What else? Well, there's a few extra things with the pen I'm going to add. Like this part of the light pole. And it's got some power cables coming off of it, which I like. And we'll just add one going off frame. Now, I'm just going to use the tiniest, most minuscule amount of gouache to add some highlights. Just a few. Just going to get it straight from the tube here. So the top of this street light, there's a few highlights here of whatever these things are. This maybe some on the ground. The tops of these little posts have white on them, which is kind of a fun detail. I mean, that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's it. Well, yeah, I'm happy with that. I like how that looks. I think that turned out pretty good. Okay, friends, I really hope you enjoyed this video, this little demonstration of how I do a line and wash sketch. I'm going to be doing a whole series on this, so please subscribe so you don't miss that. And thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you on the next one.